Let's talk about limiting beliefs and what is a limiting belief and what isn't. You've probably, if you've been on the internet doing business for any length of time, there's a lot of people who talk about limiting beliefs. And if the concept is new to you, that basically means it's something that you believe about yourself that isn't true, that's holding you back from what you could or should or want to be doing. Now, that's not a kind of phrasing or vocabulary that I particularly love, although it is a really useful technique for those who it works for. It reminds me a lot of kind of like a self-administered cognitive behavioral therapy. So you can reframe in your mind the things that you believe that aren't true so that they become more empowering and they become something that you can deal with. Now, the problem that I have with this technique, or this framing, or this way of looking at things is when we're looking for limiting beliefs or things that we believe about ourselves and what we could be doing that aren't true, and we kind of overlook or fail to acknowledge the things that are going on in the world that are holding us back, but that are true and that aren't immediately changeable, at least not through our own actions or our own mindset or things like that. So, for example, it's not a limiting belief for me to say that mental illness is real, or that there are socioeconomic imbalances in the world, or that institutional racism is a thing, or that homophobia exists, or that time is linear. Now, all of these are constraints, part of the environment that lots of us have to work with and deal with in different ways, and there's no amount of deciding or trying to reframe in your mind that they're not true and that it's only your own actions that can change them, because it's not going to be just your own actions that can change them. So I'll never ever say that a lot of us don't cause a lot of problems for ourselves. We do. And we should try to not do that as much as possible. And when you can get rid of kind of your own mental blocks and the things that you are personally doing to yourself to hold yourself back, that's great. Go for it. Do it 100% as much as possible. But sometimes we get so wrapped up in trying to fix ourselves when really the situation is institutional or environmental or much bigger than us, that we kind of get lost and we don't see the things that we can change because we're really trying to focus on trying to change ourselves to impact something that right now we may not be able to change. So here's what I do instead. I'm just presenting this as an alternative. Your results may vary, and again, if doing that kind of mindset limiting belief work works for you, keep doing it. It's fantastic. What I like to do when I've got a problem or an obstacle or I'm not sure how to move ahead or what to do, I ask, why is this a thing? Why is this a problem? Until I've identified as many of the unchangeable factors as I possibly can. If I've got a hard limit on my time, that's a hard limit on my time. If there are other things at play, there's other things at play that I may not necessarily personally be able to do anything about. Once I've got those listed down, I know what they are. Everything that's left, everything else, all of the other variables are up for negotiation, and that's where you start to play. That's where I start to say, okay, if I can't change A, I can change B, C, and D. And so I start going with B, C, and D and see what I can change. I mix up the variables with the things that I do have power over. And 9 times out of 10, if I don't find a way through the problem, there's a way around it or a different solution to the problem entirely. And I find that to be a really effective process for myself and for the people that I coach or that I teach or that I work with. Now, let me give you an example of this. What some people will call a limiting belief, and which may well be a limiting belief, is that they can't do the technology because it's too hard. And most people can do most technology, but it's not the case 100% for everyone. And there is the fact of the world, there's a lot of technology. It's really hard, and finding it hard and not being able to figure out complex integrations or new systems or things like that, it's not your fault. It's not because you are lacking or failing to do anything. It's because it's hard and there's a lot of it, and learning is really difficult, especially when you don't have a clear pathway from point A to point B and you don't even necessarily know what the outcomes you're looking for are. So in that case, when you do kind of come up to something that may or may not be a limiting belief, but is sort of insurmountable from where you're standing right now based on what you're looking at, try to break it down into its component parts. You know, if you're having trouble, if it's too hard to set up a landing page, for example, try to break down what are the parts of a landing page that I'm having trouble working with. What are the outcomes that I want to achieve? What can I do that will make this happen? Maybe a way forward, instead of, maybe hiring someone is off the table right now, what you can do is look at what I really want is to collect emails and be able to email them. If a landing page, if a complex text system isn't possible right now, just get emails in Facebook and through conversations and by email and communicate that way until you've got enough steam going to either get the training you need or hire someone to take this problem off your shoulders. Don't focus so much on what the problem is. focus on the elements of the problem and what that problem would solve for you, and try to work with those by hook or by crook, whatever you have to do to get to where you need to be, even if it's not an elegant solution, if it's not pretty, if it's not scalable. All of that is fine as long as it gets you moving now. And when you kind of go at it from that perspective and don't worry so much about, I've got this problem I can't solve, again, whether or not it's a limiting belief, think about the things related to that problem that you can change, that you can impact, that you can do something about, and start there. Very often I found that the feeling of fear and stuckness and paralysis, once I've started to take some movements, kind of dissipates, or it changes, or it identifies that there was another problem all along, maybe one that I can deal with. So that's my tip for today. That's my thought on limiting beliefs and how we can deal with them. I'd love to hear what you think. Leave a comment below. If you like this, like and subscribe, and I will be back again soon.